From the 5-time Super Bowl champ Tom Brady to the back-to-back double MVP Patrick Mahomes, this year's NFL starting quarterback roster has no shortage of big names. Here are the best starting quarterbacks in the NFL right now, starting off with none other than Aaron Rodgers. Is Rodgers in the midst of a new era of his career, or did he just have a bad year due to a lack of help from his inexperienced receivers? He'd be making a case to be the league's top quarterback with 2 consecutive MVP seasons, but that all went down the drain when his passer rating took a 20-point dip and the Packers missed the playoffs. It's obvious that Rodgers' performance was affected by his young receivers lacking chemistry and experience. Losing Davante Adams really hurt the team's chances. A true number 1 receiver is indispensable in winning games. Rodgers struggled at times, and no matter how much he tried, he couldn't hide the fact that he was playing poorly. To make matters worse, he was lackluster in the season finale, throwing a game-changing interception in a home loss that kept the Packers from the playoffs. Rodgers is still one of the NFL's elite quarterbacks, but the 4-time MVP continues to fall short in crucial moments. That's not something you want on the resume of a top 5 quarterback. If you want a prime example of a top 5er, look no further than Justin Herbert. While some think it's too early to call Herbert a top 5 quarterback, don't be fooled. This guy's got the goods, and he's just getting started. Sure, he hasn't won a playoff game yet, but let's not forget he's only 24 years old. That's practically a baby in QB years. Despite a shaky supporting cast, including injuries to his top 5 receivers, Herbert still manages to light up the field with his rocket arm and impressive accuracy. He even landed himself in the top 2 for passing yards in his first 2 seasons. And let's not forget, he's had to deal with some questionable play calling from his former offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi. Good riddance, if you ask me. Now, Herbert may have hit a bit of a slump in the second half of the season, but let's not dwell on that too much. The Chargers' defense and coaching staff certainly didn't do him any favors in that infamous meltdown against Jacksonville. But let me tell you, when Herbert gets his first playoff win, and mark my words, it won't be long, he'll be well on his way to becoming one of the greatest QBs of all time. Speaking of being one of the greats, who can forget Tom Brady? Don't you ever doubt the man, the myth, the legend. He's like the LeBron James of football. People have been trying to write him off for over 5 years, but he keeps proving them wrong. Sure, it's easy to think that Brady's best days are behind him. He's now 46 years old and not exactly known for his speed on the field. But even in a bad year, Brady still managed to put up great numbers. Last season, Brady threw for 4,694 yards, which was good enough to be the 3rd best in the entire league. He also threw 25 touchdown passes and only 9 interceptions, which is pretty darn good considering how many other quarterbacks had double-digit picks. The Bucs had some issues with injuries, an aging roster, and not so great coaching, which all contributed to their overall lackluster performance. This isn't the first time that people have counted out Brady only to be proven wrong. In 2019, he had a passer rating of 88.0 and was bounced out of the playoffs in the first round. But just 1 year later, he won his 5th Super Bowl MVP in Tampa Bay. So don't be surprised if he continues to defy the odds and racks up his 16th Pro Bowl season in the near future. Moving on, we've got Josh Allen, the quarterback with a cannon for an arm and a set of wheels to match. When this guy's on his game, he's practically unstoppable. I mean, who wouldn't be with one of the best running backs in recent history backing them up? And sure, he may make a few mistakes here and there, but at the end of the day, he's one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league, no questions asked. And let's talk about that playoff run he had last year, folks. It was nothing short of historic. This guy was the MVP favorite for a reason. He was throwing darts left and right, completing an insane 77.4% of his passes for 637 yards and 9 touchdowns. Oh, and let's not forget that he racked up another 134 yards on the ground. This dude was a machine, and he nearly brought Buffalo its first Super Bowl ring. But it's not just his playoff heroics that make him a top-tier quarterback. This guy has been putting up crazy numbers for the past few seasons. He's had at least 6 rushing touchdowns every year, and he's led a top 3 scoring offense for 3 straight seasons. Now, I know some of you might say he's too turnover prone to be the best of the best, but come on, give the guy a break. He's still one of the most talented quarterbacks in the game, and that's all there is to it. But not enough to be number 1 though, and he still trails behind Joe Burrow in my books. Some might argue that Allen deserves the number 2 spot on the list, but let me tell you, Burrow has earned that position fair and square. This guy has been on fire in the 2021 and 2022 seasons, and all it took was 1 full year for him to turn the Cincinnati Bengals into a Super Bowl contender. That's right, the Bengals, a team that's been down in the dumps for what feels like forever. Sure, Burrow's got some fantastic receivers to throw to, with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd on his squad, but let's not forget that he's had to work with a shoddy offensive line, and yet he still managed to win some big games. Last season, he had the best completion percentage of any quarterback, and this year, he came in at a close second with a rate of 68.3. And let's not forget, he threw only 2 fewer interceptions than Allen, despite having the same number of touchdowns. Now, if the Bengals can get their act together and give Burrow the protection he needs, this guy's gonna be unstoppable. I mean, we're talking about the 2020 college football champion here. This guy knows how to win. So mark my words, it won't be long before Burrow brings home his first professional title. Who knows? Maybe he'll even give Mahomes a run for his money someday. Speaking of Mahomes though, the guy's my pick for this year's top starting QB. Now, there used to be some heated debates about who was the king of the gridiron, but let me tell you, that argument is over. Brady and Rodgers might have had their time in the spotlight, but now it's all about Patrick Mahomes, baby. This guy's only been at it for 5 years, and he's already breaking records left and right. He's made the Pro Bowl every single year. Talk about consistency. And let's not forget, he's about to nab his 2nd NFL MVP award. Oh, and did I mention he's got a Super Bowl MVP under his belt too? This dude's got more awards than a Hollywood superstar. Let's talk numbers. Mahomes is putting up some serious stats. We're talking 4,791 passing yards, 38 passing touchdowns, and only 10 interceptions in an average year. That's right, I said average. His passer rating is off the charts, the best of all time. Can you believe it? Now, some people might have thought that trading their top receiver would spell doom for the Chiefs, but not with Mahomes at the helm. He still managed to lead the league in passing yards and touchdowns, all the while making it look like a walk in the park. The dude's got ice in his veins, I tell ya. But hey, that's all for the league's top quarterbacks this season.